In the previous module, we recorded Toccata and Fugue in D minor and imported it into Snap so we could play the music as shapes swirled across the screen. That worked well for a single tune. However, if we could play individual notes, we could play any tune or any song. There are several ways we might go about this. One of the most straightforward is just to record a note for every note that we'd like to play. So, for example, if we record an organ playing the note A3, that is the note A in the third octave, we get this: B3, C3, or C sharp 3, A4. And so that strategy, we could record all 12 notes in each octave, and then we'd of course have to do that for every octave. So if we wanted the second, third, and fourth octaves, or the third, fourth, and fifth octaves, we'd have 36 different sound samples that we'd need to record. Of course, if we wanted a guitar in addition to organ, there would be another 36. And so we might wind up with more than 100 recordings or sound samples to achieve this approach. It would work, but it would be a bit cumbersome. So how else might we go about this? Well, there's another possibility. Let's suppose that we record just one note. In this case, I've recorded the piano playing C4. So that clearly is a sound that I can play. And I can play that, I can go over to play sound, and I'm going to bring out the play sound until none, and that's again C4. But if I were able to play it back faster at a higher playback rate, then I would be able to play it back at a higher pitch. So we could pull out a block that will tell us the sample rate. And if we check the sample rate, we can find that this was recorded at 48,000 samples per second. So now, if I play this back at double that rate, if I play 4 back at, say, 96,000 samples per second, then I'll get this. So C4, and then if I play it back twice the rate, I get C5. So it's double the rate. And so that strategy I could use, and I could easily find out what the next note and the next octave is, because that's always a double. However, how can I find out what the notes in between should be? Well, it turns out that there are a lot of ways you could divide up the scale. One would be just if you have from 100 to 200, just divide the space between 100 cycles per second and 200 cycles per second by 12. That's called a just-tempered scale. But not all of the notes within that 12-note scale sound as good in combination with one another as we might like. So over the centuries, another technique was developed, and that technique involved creating a ratio so that the ratio of one note to the next was always the same. And it turns out mathematically that the way you do that is you take the number of notes. Let's suppose we have a scale with 5 notes, and you then multiply each note by the fifth root of 2, and you wind up with each of the dividing up the space in such a way that the ratio of one note to the next is always the same. So if we extend that idea, then we would use the 12th root of 2 for a 12-note octave. And in Snap, if I take 2 and I raise it to the 1/12th power, I get the 12th root of 2. I could also make this a little easier to look at just by encapsulating it as a reporter block. Same thing, but it looks a little bit more like English. And so what happens with this 12th root of 2? Well, that is the number that if you multiply it by itself 12 times, it gives you 2. So if I set the number to the 12th root of 2 over here, I get 1.059. Now that I've done that, I can keep multiplying it over and over again until I get to the 12th root of 2, and that winds up, if I do this total of 11 more times for a total of 12, I get the number 2. So the 12th root of 2 is the number multiplied by itself yields 2, and it divides the 12-note space evenly. The reason that this is important is because that means now I have a way of knowing if I'm going from C sharp, C to C sharp. Well, I need to go back over here to my piano note, and if I start out with C4, then that would be, I'd play that back at 4,800 cycles per second. But now I'm going to need that 12th root of 2 that I just created somewhere. Hang on just a second. I think I have it in the operators here. So let me drag that out. And now what I want to do is multiply this by, I want to multiply 48,000 samples per second times the 12th root of 2, and if I do that, that takes me from C to C sharp. So C, and then C sharp. And then if I keep doing that over and over, I'll just go up the scales from one note to the next. And that is how we can use a single sample to scale things. And that's the technique that we're gonna use to get a single sample of a guitar or an organ or any other instrument, and then scale that sample by playing it back at faster and faster rates until we get every note in the scale. So it makes it much easier to get a sample that you can play notes with. Now, instead of having to have a sample for every note, we just get one sample per octave, and it makes it quite a bit simpler. So we'll learn more about that in the next video.